You are welcome back to my class again today. We are still on supplying argument to functions. So we are going to look at arbitrary argument, where you are supplying more than one argument, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to the function, and you want the function to print out everything, probably in horizontal order or vertical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want the function to print it out that way. So you are going to supply more than one argument to the function. So how do you do that? So we are going to use asterisk. So what we will do in that case is you will define a function. You define a function, right? Let's just call it arbitrary function. Let that the name of the function be arbitrary. So in this case now we just say, right? So this is the name of our function. And then here now the function is going to expect argument. Now you use this asterisk, right? And then you just give it a name, x. Now this is just a convention, so you can put any name there. I can put a theta there. I can put anything. So, but with this asterisk sign here, it means that I'm telling this function that I will supply more than just one argument to it, right? So that is what this is. Now I'm going to do this, and then inside my function, I will say print. I just put here print positional argument. That is just what I want to print as the header. Then I'll come down here, I'll say, now, if I'm going to supply, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to this my function, and I want to print it out that way, either print it out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will have to use a for loop to be able to pull out that from the argument, because once that argument is supplied to the function, it's going to be supplied in the form of a tuple. So I want you to see that. Now I have to use a for loop to pull those information or those data out. So I will say for. Now I will come here. I will say for. I will declare another variable that will temporarily hold the data that I'll be pulling out from the tuple. So I will say for arc. I'm still going to give it a similar name for arc. Now this one is not carrying s. So for arc in arcs, right? Now this is my for loop. Go in and then print arc, right? Then I will come here and I will say return. So this is it. Now you can see that this my return is the same line. Okay, it seems it's not. I'll have to bring it here. I'm going to say something to you now. Now this is my function. So define arbitrary function. This is the function name, arbitrary. Then I'm going to supply this argument to it, which is what? Arcs with this asterisk. So what this is saying is I'm going to supply more than just one argument. Say 1, 2, 3, like I've said. That's why I'm saying this. So it's making this function to become flexible, to expect as many arguments as possible. That is what this is doing. Now I go in and I say print position argument. So this is a string literal. So I want this string literal to be printed out as my header. Then I will say for arc in arcs. So when I supply this argument, now this is my function that I've defined. Now let's call this function so that you will understand effectively what I'm saying. Now the function is arbitrary, right? Now this is my function name. I'm calling the function now. And I'm going to supply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this is what I'm supplying to the function. So I want the function to print this out. Now, this will be my output. When I call this function here, right, it will come here. And then it will supply all this to this. Now the way it's going to supply this argument to this will be in form of a tuple. Just the way it is. This is a tuple. But this is actually the parameter, the argument I'm supplying to this function. But when you supply it, Python is going to take this and convert it to a tuple, which will be in this form, and then put it here. So the whole of this will be carried and inserted into this place. Then it will now come in. First is to print out this, which is a string literal that I've supplied. Then it will come here. For you to print out this information, it's going to take this and put it here as a tuple, which is what? A data structure. I told you that this function, as you see it, has everything, has both input, process, output in it. Now, the input of this function now is this. This is the process, and then you will see the output. So the exit is this return. So it's going to return back to this calling function. Now, when I'm going to print this out, it will print it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is how it's going to print out my output. Now, if I don't want it to print it out that way, it means I'm going to do something to this function. I will come here and I will supply another parameter. And I will say n, right? N equals to this. Then I will cover this. Now, when I do this, the way this function is going to print out, my output will be in this form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is how it's going to print out. It's not going to print out vertically like this. It's going to print out horizontally if I do this. Because by default, if I don't put this n, what I'm simply saying is by default, this print function will create a new line before it will bring out the next iteration. It will move to the next line before it will. So here I'm instructing it not to create a new line, that the new line should be a space, which is like this, and then carry out the next iteration. So that is what this asterisk sign does to you. When you want to supply multiple elements, when you want to supply multiple arguments to your function, this is what you do, right, for this. So this is what it's going to give me. If I use this, it's going to give it to me this way. But if I do this, it's going to give it to me this way. So right now we are going into the PyCharm to see practically a demonstration of how to supply an arbitrary argument to a function to print it out in this manner. But before we go into the PyCharm, I want you to tell me in the comment section what will happen if I put this my return here. So tell me in the comment section what will happen if I put my return here. So if you're following me, then practicalize this and tell me what will happen to this function. What will be the output of this function if I put my return here? And what will be it if I put the return here? So let's go to the PyCharm and practically see it. All right, so let's demonstrate the arbitrary argument. So now I'm going to define my function arbitrary. Then I'm going to put the asterisk. So ax. So I go in. Then here I am saying print positional argument as my header. What I'm going to supply is positional. Let's just put this. So I'm going. The first instruction is print this string literal positional argument. Then the next one, since I am going to supply different argument to it, so I will need a for loop to pull out my data. So I'm going to call for arc in arcs, right? Go in, print arc, and then so here I'm going to say return. Now I have declared my function, which is this, right? Now I'm going to call the function. So I'm going to call arbitrary. And I'm going to supply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to it. So what will be the output? When I execute this, it will give me You see, positional argument, which is this one. So this has been supplied to this as a tuple. Now it entered and printed out positional argument as my header, which is what you have seen, positional argument. Then this is applied to this. This argument now becomes a tuple. So the first thing to do is to go in, copy one into argument, then go into the for loop and print out argument, which is the one that you have seen. Then it will do two. It will copy two into argument, then go in and print out two, which is what you see. It will repeat the same thing for this. Now I told you that if I don't want it to come out vertically like this, I can come here and say n, and then do this. So when I execute this function call again, I'm going to get it in horizontal format. So you see, positional argument, which is this one printed. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is what this second parameter that I'm supplying to this print function inside the function is doing to me. So it's bringing this out in the horizontal format. Now, I told you to tell me what will happen if I have this here. It means that I'm asking it to return. Once it goes in and carry out the first iteration, instead of going back again for the second iteration, it's just going to return, meaning it's going to exit this function, this loop is going to exit it. So when I click here, it's just going to print out 1. See, 1. Why? Because Python is using indentation for its block of code. So by putting this return here, it means that as soon as you carry out the first one, it's going to encounter this return inside this for loop, and then it's going to exit the function. So it will not go back to iterate the second one, the second part, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. So that is what it means if you mistakenly put your return at the wrong position. So this return should be here. And then when you execute it, it will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is for arbitrary argument that you supply to a function. This is how you see it practically. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to click on the like button. So till we see in the next class, bye-bye.